Hi folks, it's Andy and welcome to this week's Kendo Rants. We've got some fantastic questions today. As always, a couple that didn't quite make it into last week's show, and plenty that obviously from the Kendo Show Early Access group, comments from YouTube, all sorts of things. So if you've got questions you'd like me to answer in the show, either leave them in a comment below this video on YouTube, or even better, join the Kendo Show Early Access group on Facebook. There's a link down below. It's free to join, of course, and it's a great place to post your questions because it's a great community of Kendoka of all different levels from all over the world. So yeah, get in there. Just before we jump into these questions, though, as I say every week, you should know by now, yeah, if you want me to keep making these videos, which I assume you do because you keep coming back and watching them, unless this is your first time, in which case, welcome to the Kendo Show. It's a great channel that talks about Kendo, and I answer questions from you every week here on Kendo Rant. And to keep it going, you have to shop at Kendostar.com. That's my website that supplies amazing Kendo equipment, and it's brilliant. Win-win. You get great gear. It supports the show. All right, so go and shop at Kendostar.com. Right, let's get into this. Why do upper-level senseis seem to prefer Koto Shinais, even in Shiai? Dobari Shinais feel lighter and quicker, so I don't really get why some would choose a slower and heavier one. Is there some advantage that really good Kendoka can sense? Also, which style do you prefer? Okay, that's a really good question, and I think a lot of people would have it. So, Koto Shinai or Koto Shinai, as we tend to call them, it's the same thing. Koto tends to be the more popular term in Japan, but the Koto means straight and Koto means old sword. So it's like it means the same thing. It's a Shinai like this. This is my personal Nichirin, which is the new large grip Koto version that we've got on Kendostar. And basically, as you can see, the door section, that's this section, isn't that large, where the Dobari or a Jisen style, this would be much larger, going to a fine tip, whereas this is a sort of similar length the whole way along. The difference being, of course, that the balance is distributed evenly along the blade as opposed to being nearer to your hands, so the tip doesn't feel quite as light as you get with a Dobari style. The upshot of that being that you get, you get more durability because there's more meat in the end of the bamboo. And also, what really pertains to your question, it provides more feedback from the tip of the Shinai. So you tend to find that you control the center a little bit more. There's a little bit more weight in the tip of the Shinai. And as I've mentioned in the video I put out the other day, if you haven't seen it, about the Shinai that we have, when you get to a certain level, especially if you're quite competitive, obviously there's a sequence of attack and defense in Kendo, right? A sequence of attack and defense. But if you defend like incorrectly, it can be very dangerous for you, and it can provide lots of opportunities for your opponent, and it doesn't look great. Yeah, and what I'm talking about is when you're here and then you get scared, you don't want to get hit, and you raise your hands or you start to move the Shinai around like this to try and do feints. And that sort of stuff's valid. I'm not sort of detracting from that so much, but it comes with risks, and it's definitely not the sort of thing you want to do in higher grade Shinsa, all right, in gradings, because once you get into the higher levels of grading, anything past 5th dan, so when you're looking at sort of 6th dan, 7th dan, then your grading becomes about really taking the sen or the opportunity or the initiative, and that doesn't come from feints. Okay, it's a different type of Seme, and a Shinai that's got a little bit more weight in the tip, it sort of discourages you from lifting the tip this way to defend too much, and it doesn't lend itself that well to stuff like Orjiwaza. You can do Orjiwaza with it, of course, but it doesn't lend itself as well to it because it has that sort of weight a little bit more in the tip. It encourages you to keep your kamae a bit more, and also the strikes that you make, they sort of feel a little bit more powerful, a little bit more weighty, because again the Shinai is sort of backing you up there. And then I guess the last thing I'd say is the reason it tends to be more popular, particularly with sort of higher level sort of practitioners is probably twofold. One is because, like I say, once you get past a certain level, you are sort of aiming for that type of kendo, sort of moving away from the sort of feints, though it's still valid to use them. All right, so I don't want to get into the territory of saying like you shouldn't feint in kendo, because I don't believe that, and I don't believe you shouldn't block. It's just you have to know how to do it, and you have to understand you have to sort of make the right risk analysis when you're doing it. Excuse me. But there is that, okay, of course. And then the other thing I would say as well is that if you don't have good Shinai control, good kamae, and good grip, Shinai nigiri, the grip on the Shinai, and it's not really tenuchi, but the kind of the way of actually wielding the Shinai, then these feel a lot heavier than they are. Yeah. So a Dobari, it kind of can act as a bit of a crutch for bad Shinai technique. So you can still wield these with quite good efficiency if you're using your left arm and your kamae properly. But that takes quite a lot of experience and, of course, ability. So that's another reason as well. Okay, so when you get past a certain level and you reach a certain level of ability, you get to sort of reap the benefits of both, because you can control this much better, but you get the benefits of it as well. Whereas sort of at lower levels, you don't get both of that. It just feels heavy, right? So your strikes might feel solid, but yeah, it just feels a bit heavy. In terms of which do I prefer? Well, it depends. It depends on what sort of things I'm working on in my kendo a lot. I actually tend to use all-purpose type Shinai more than anything else. So stuff like our ultimate all-purpose model or the Kensei, that sort of thing. I use those the most. And I also do use the Junki Jisengata a lot as well, especially for sort of extended periods of Jigeiko. And I've always used Koto style Shinai, but I've always used them for Kihon and for Kirikaishi, mainly because of the extra durability. And if you do half an hour of Kirikaishi, one of these, and then pick up a Dobari, it feels super, super light. So I've done that as well. But then I got my hands on this Nichirinto and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love this Nichirinto. And yesterday was like my first day back in Borgu, because we're allowed to do practice with kids here in the UK now. So me, my wife and my two kids were able to hire a place and actually get some Borgu practice in for the first time in about 6 months. And I really enjoyed using this. I really did. And I, now I'm sort of getting more to a level where I can wield it better. I'm starting to enjoy using this kind of Shinai as well. It's really given me a nice feeling in my kendo. So I think I'll see myself sort of graduate. What am I trying to say? Sort of moving towards this type of Shinai over Dobari Shinai. Having said that, I really like the Kibushinai as well, the really massive door. It's like the total opposite, but I really like that as well. So I'd probably if I was going to do Shiai or something more competitive, I'd probably still stick with something like the Junki or even go with the Kibu. All right, so it depends. All right, it depends. Next one. Hi, Andy. And this is from last week. So sorry I missed this last week. Hi, Andy. If you could go back in time and fence any historical kendo teacher who's no longer with us, or even join their dojo, who would it be? So it depends how much I'm allowed to cheat on this. Because if I could choose anybody, it would probably be Chiba Masashi Sensei, who did obviously pass away reasonably recently, sort of in the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm very lucky that I did get the chance to practice with him. So I guess that might be a bit of a cheat. I guess that's not the sort of answer you're expecting, but if I could choose anyone, that's probably who I'd choose. Because I thought he was a fantastic teacher, and I really, his sort of philosophy towards Kendo really resonated with me. So, if that isn't the sort of answer you're looking for, and I had to pick anyone, then probably especially if you're talking historical, as in sort of longer ago than that, you're sort of, I guess you're talking about these like like Mochida Sensei and Ogawa Sensei, those sort of people, then yeah, probably Mochida Sensei, who was the last 10th Dan. I'd probably pick him, but like I haven't got a good reason to give you for that. Most of my famous senseis are senseis that are either still with us or sort of passed away recently. I'm very much into modern kendo, so. Next one. How do you feel about gloves under your kote? When we have practice in Japan, it seems like many of the college age up working people wear gloves inside the kote. I had giant hands and barely fit in the largest kote my dealer could get. So no for me. Do you wear them, and what do you think? I've tried it, and yeah, it's popular with university students. It certainly was sort of about 8 or 9 years ago when I was practicing in universities in Japan a lot. I tried it once. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I didn't like how like it affected my grip on the Shinai, so I never did it again. I just put the gloves in a bin. But my wife wears them sometimes, and she likes to wear them because it sort of stops your hands getting stained or sort of going stinky from the kote, which is the main reason people wear the gloves. Is for that reason. I don't mind that so much. I just wash it off afterwards. So, and I don't use kote that have smoked deer palms if I can help it. So you'll find on Kendostar we don't have many Borga sets that have the smoked deer palms because it's something I personally don't like very much because of the smell of it. I prefer the bleached deer skin for the palms of the kotes because I think that it feels nicer and it doesn't have the smell. I know some people like the smell, but I don't. I don't hate the smell, but I don't like that it sticks on your hands for like 3 days after practice. So, so yeah. So I don't bother with the gloves myself. To be honest. I got conscious of my kamae with Borguan recently. I find that the dodai is so big it blocks me from having my elbows relaxed at the correct kamae position. I'm very skinny and I've never worn a door smaller than my current one. How can I be sure that it's a door size issue and not an issue of my own kamae? Thanks. So, well, it could be two things. One, it could be that the door is too big, or two, it could be that you're wearing the door too high. If you sure that you're wearing the door in the right position, then yeah, probably it's too wide for you. If you're in your kamae, yeah, and your elbows, your door is sort of disturbing the position of your elbows, then yeah, it could very well be too wide. It's very easy to change if it's not a bamboo door. I've got a video about it actually. It's a previous Kendo RANT. You just tie it up about 2 centimeters shorter than you want it to end up as and leave it like that for a few days, and do that for a while after practice every time. And it'll stay at about that width. So it probably is that. If you are, like you say, if you're very skinny, it is a problem that could occur. So yeah, give that a try. And if that doesn't work, then I'd have a look at the height at which you're actually wearing it. Hi Andy, Sonkyo is a component of the established Reiho of Kendo, but some of us more mature Kendoka struggle with this due to knee or hip problems. I'm aware that there's an alternative, but it isn't used at all in Korean Kumdo. What is the origin, history, and purpose of Sonkyo in Kendo? I don't know. I don't know. Probably, if I was to hazard a guess, they do Sonkyo in sumo as well, and it's I think in sumo, and I've heard it's probably similar in Kendo, that it's a non-aggressive posture in a way. In sumo they do it, and they kind of do this, don't they, show they've not got any weapons or something, I think it is. But it is inherently part of the Japanese culture of Kendo. It's something that they use in a few budo, and yeah, it is part of Kendo. I can't tell you about what the history and the origin of it is, if I'm honest with you. Maybe that's a question for George at Kenshi 247. He's definitely the guy you want to ask about historical stuff. And yeah, and I think it's because it's kind of part of the Japanese culture of Kendo that's why you don't see it in some of the Korean practice of Kendo. Next one. As a Kendo expert, how often do you both consciously and unconsciously spend time judging and rating the player's Borga during your Mitori Geiko sessions? What exactly do you judge? Also, in Japan, I sometimes see during regular Keiko that some people are using a tenugui, some will cut in half, placed on the chi as a sweat absorber. Since there are products that are specifically designed to be sweat absorbers, I was wondering whether using a tenugui as such, not only during regular Keiko, but also in Shiai or Shinsei is appropriate or not. Okay, so the first part of your question about how often do I judge the player's Borgu when I'm doing Mitori Geiko? All the time. It's like automatic. I can look at most Kendo videos or even the videos that are from quite far away, and usually I can tell what brand their Borgu is, or at least what workshop it was made in. Because a lot of brands use the same workshop. Yeah, I can usually tell that, and I do. Of course, I judge it. Of course, I look at that. It's part of my being of what I do. So it is part of what I am looking at when I look at the Kendo. And yeah, sometimes it bugs me when they do stuff that annoys me. Like one of the things that really kind of chaps my apple is when people cut the himo and then use tape to stop it from coming unraveled. I mean, just tie it up. It's so easy. I really hate that. So don't do that. I've done a video how to do it. Yeah. So you've got no excuse. And yeah, I mean, I look at stuff like, what kind of Borg is popular, what kind of, how the Borg sits on them and how it, whether it looks good and looks protective and looks like it's doing the job. And obviously if they're wearing it properly or not, like I say. But yeah, in terms of people putting, so what you're talking about is on the chin pad of the men, some people put a tenugui in there and sometimes they cut it and put it in there as a sweat absorber. Sometimes it's a sweat absorber and sometimes they do it because their men doesn't fit them properly and they're using it to take up a bit of extra space. Both is reasonably common, especially in Japan where people aren't always using Borga that was originally made for them. Some of them obviously are using Borga that was gifted to them or something. And yeah, there are sort of designed sweat absorbers and it's definitely better to use them than to use a tenugui. If you're going to use a tenugui, you should probably use one that's not going to be really conspicuous. Probably, yeah, if you're going to use it permanently, cut it and put it so, and the best is that it shouldn't be really visible. That's the best, to be honest, especially in the Shinsa, especially in the grading. Yeah, you shouldn't have a massive bright tenugui on the bottom of your men. Yeah, doesn't look great. Kind of looks like you couldn't be bothered to buy a proper one. So, what sort of material goes into Borgafton? Is it sort of standard, or does each vendor have their own preferred layer of material? I saw a video from a Borg workshop where they were using some sort of fiber mat, like stuff that goes below carpets, which I thought was kind of odd. Side note, would you consider doing Borg making videos and filming the actual construction in the workshop sometime after restrictions ease? I thought it'd be a great supplement to the Borg webinar you have already. So that's a really great question. So in terms of what's inside the actual Borgafton, there's different. It depends on the Borg, and it does of course depend on the supplier and the maker. At Kendostar, we tend to use quite a modern filling. It's usually a kind of high, what do you call it, a high density foam type stuff. That's designed to be shock absorbing. And I know traditionally they would use layers of felt and wool, kind of stuff, but an hand stitched Borga that tends to still be used, but in machine stitched not so much. You don't, like I say, these days we use more modern materials that actually provide better protection. We use a formula that we've sort of tested to be the exact perfect amount to be still flexible, comfortable, but also provide the most protection. The development of that sort of stuff does cost money though. So what you'll find is that, I know you can go out there and find super cheap Borga sets, and a lot cheaper than probably what you can find on Kendostar. And what you'll find is, yeah, inside of them is some some cheaper materials. Some of it I know for a fact is like you say, like the carpet underlay, but you know, you've got different grades of carpet underlay as well, and you can get the really cheapest like recycled stuff that's like not great. And there's even stuff with that in there. I know for a fact out there. So yeah, if you're seeing Borga out on the market that's like cheap, then you got to ask yourself why. In terms of a video about the actual construction of Borga, maybe. It's not something I want to make super public. It's a very difficult industry, the Kendoga industry, both internationally and in Japan. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. I'll think about it and see if it's something we can do. It's not as easy as I'd like it to be. Is it appropriate to use nice synthetic uniform for Shinsai at lower ranks? The practice uniform I have looks pretty decent, but it's not quite the same as Aizomi cotton. I definitely plan to get an Aizomi uniform for gradings and tournaments down the road, but the budget's a little stretched after ordering Borga recently. Yeah, totally understandable. Look, yeah, it's perfectly fine to use that, especially for the lower ranks. Like I'd say, like up to like definitely second dan and probably third dan. I'm not gonna sort of really look down, like not look down. I would never look down anyway, but like mark you down, I think is what I mean to say. For like wearing a synthetic uniform in a grading. After fourth dan, you should really look at wearing an Aizomi one. Probably. What's really important though is that you're wearing it correctly at the end of the day. So if you turn up for your fourth dan and you're wearing like the basic essentials uniform, but it's all worn perfectly and your Borga's worn perfectly, even though it's not like a top of the range Borga, not that it has to be, you know, and even if it's a bit old and battered, but it's all worn neatly and tidily and it's looked after. And it's not all like, especially the uniform is like, as long as it's not all faded purple and stuff, and your kendo is solid, then you'll still pass. Yeah. But like, if you kind of turn up and you're kind of looking a little bit like, you know, you couldn't be bothered with it all, then yeah, of course that's going to go against you. Now, that's not what I'm suggesting you're talking about, because it's not. You said quite clearly a nice synthetic uniform. If you look at something like our Kata uniform, it looks really good. It looks really nice. And like, you could get away with wearing that for probably even higher level Shinsai, especially as you're quite far away from the panel and it looks really smart. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it still. It's not what it's designed for. But you could do. But like I say, the important thing is that you're wearing it properly and you're wearing it neatly, and the equipment that you're using is obviously well looked after and cared for. So yeah. Next one. Hi Fisher Sensei, thank you for the amazing videos and thank you for watching them. Since I joined the Kendo community 2 weeks ago, I haven't missed a video of yours. Thank you. My question is, as a beginner Kendoka, one cannot help but get excited by all the aspects of Kendo. Yeah, I know, I remember, I was there. However, one thing that I still don't understand is why my sensei still hasn't allowed me to buy my first Borga set yet. My sensei often compliments my progress thanks to Zero to Shodan. But he has yet to recommend me to get my first Borga. I'm literally embarrassed every time I watch your amazing videos because you tell us to do our shopping at Kendo shopping at Kendostar, and I'll buy the Victory 2021 in a heartbeat, but I can't because my sensei told me to wait. So aside from buying Borga, another Shinai, or other temporarily prohibited items, what would you recommend beginner Kendokas to get to improve their Kendo while supporting the channel? All right, okay. All right, there's a couple of things here I really need to unpack, all right? I do want everyone to shop at Kendostar and support the channel, but not to the point where, like, you're just buying stuff for the sake of it, all right? Don't do that, yeah? That isn't the idea, right? I do appreciate everybody shopping at Kendostar, and I really do. Honestly, I do, right? Because it really is, you know, this isn't like a part-time thing. This is like everything. But, I don't want you to buy stuff you don't need, right? That isn't what I'm talking about, yeah? When you need it, buy it from us. That's what I'm saying, right? So, okay. Now, you started Kendo 2 weeks ago, right? It's too early to buy a burger. All right, it's too early to buy a burger. I know you want to buy a burger. I wanted to buy a burger before I started Kendo because I thought it looked so cool. All right, but and I do want you to buy a burger at Kendostar when you're ready to buy a burger. You don't necessarily have to buy the Victory. Get the Vanguard if you want. I think it's a great choice for you as well, especially as we can ship that fast there. The thing is, your sensei is worried, right? Because lots of people come to Kendo like you have very, very enthusiastically, right? And after a month or two, they disappear. I'm not saying that's what you're going to do. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not. In fact, you know, I'm really confident it's not what you're going to do. But lots of people before you have done that, yeah? And what he doesn't want you to do is come and buy all and spend all that money on Kendo and then quit and then you've wasted all your money. Yeah, because that's not cool. Nobody wants that. All right, so I understand what your sensei is saying, and I agree with him. All right, so don't worry. Yeah, you're gonna get to buy the burger. You are, right? And Kendostar will survive. We'll still be here. Don't worry. Oh, stuff's falling over though. But sorry if you heard that. But you know, we'll still be here. All right. Like I say, we're not like a part-time 2-bit web store, yeah, like we're a serious business, yeah, one of the biggest in the industry, so don't worry, all right? We'll be here waiting for you when you're ready to buy the burger, but you need to just hang on a little bit more, right, and take it step by step, all right? When your sensei thinks you're ready to have the burger, what he doesn't want as well, I'm sure, is that you to get the burger and then you're going to want to wear it, right? And you don't need to be wearing the burger yet. You definitely don't need to be wearing the burger yet. Definitely not, all right? I understand your enthusiasm because I was exactly the same myself. I really was. But trust me, all right? This little bit of patience now is going to pay off later, all right? So what you don't want to do, as you love Kendo so much like I do, what you don't want to do, right, is in 2 years' time have rushed the first 6 months and now you're doing rubbish Kendo when really what you could have done is been patient like everyone had wanted you to at the beginning, and in 2 years' time, you're absolutely killing it still. Yeah, I'm sure that's what's going to be the case, all right? So don't worry too much, all right? If you want to buy stuff from Kendostar in the meantime, yeah, fine, go ahead. But don't buy burgers and stuff like that, all right? Buy teneguis or something, yeah? Or tsuba or something like that that's not going to break your bank and not going to, you know, not going to matter towards your progress, all right? I know you can't use teneguis because you don't have a burger, but you know what I'm saying, right? You'll be able to at some point, all right? Don't worry, yeah, just seriously. I get it. I do get it. I do. I was there as well. Right? I really wanted to buy a burger really fast, but trust me on it. Yeah, you don't need to rush that fast. Okay, when the time comes, the time will be right. All right. But thank you. I really do appreciate the support, though. Honestly, like from a point of view of the feeling. Yeah. So, do you know what I mean? Like the thought of it is really, really, really important to me. So that's enough for now, okay? Next one, probably a repeat. Sorry, thoughts on for or against pros and cons for adding additional weight and resistance training, resistance into your training. Crikey, I'll learn how to read one day. Suburito and Suburiko Shinai weights, even leg, ankle, wrist, arm weights, weighted vests, or any other weight resistance applications for that matter. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Like I say, I use a Suburito, and that's like a bokken, the heavy bokken for Suburi. I don't use a Suburiko because that's the weight that you fix on the Shinai, because I've got the Suburito. But yeah, I know people that have used like wrist and ankle weights during the Suburi and stuff. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Definitely. Yeah, sure. Why not? Sure. I think I don't see why that could be a bad thing. But yeah, so knock yourself out on that. Don't literally. Next one. Hello, Sensei. Could you discuss Seme taking center and opportunities for Hikiwaza from Tsubazeriai? You briefly mentioned the importance of Kendo from Tsubazeriai during a previous Kendo rant, and I would like to know more. Yeah, definitely. It's super important. When you're able to start doing Tsubazeriai again, all right? You control when you're using the Shinai this way, right? You're using the tip of the Shinai to like create opportunities and to take the center. Yeah. And you do the same thing in Tsubazeriai with with this section of the Shinai. Okay, so your Shinai crossed here like this, right? Not like this. This is the incorrect Tsubazeriai. You need to cross the Shinai at the Tsuba so that you've got contact with the Shinai. Let me see if I can grab another Shinai. It's in a packet, but I think you get what I mean. Yeah. So their Shinai's here like this, and my Shinai's like this. Yeah, this contact here is what we're looking for. Yeah, and this is where I'm going to try and take the center here using my Shinai. Okay, I'm going to use my Shinai to take the center, and then how they respond to that is where I'm going to find my opportunity to strike. All right, so when I press a bit against this way, just like when we're at this distance, if I press against the Shinai this way, yeah, there might be an opposite reaction. You might push back and then give me the chance for kote. Yeah, same in Tsubazeriai. Yeah, if I give a little pressure here and then release it, then the Shinai might come back here to compensate, give me the chance for kote, yeah? Or even better, you might be able to do that same thing. Bit of pressure, release it, the Shinai comes over here, we move ours this way as if to strike kote, and they react to that as well, and that gives a chance for men, yeah? Or same sort of thing, we instantly remove the pressure and the hands come up because they don't want to get hit on the men, and it gives you a chance for door, yeah? So there's all sorts of ways to do it that way. The concept of Seme and taking the center and all that sort of thing, that's the same, all right? It's just the point at which the Shinai are making contact is a little bit different, but it's definitely the same in terms of how Seme works, all right? And that's why I consider Tsubazeriai to be an extremely important part of Kendo, an extremely valid part of Kendo, and I don't want it to sort of disappear. And that's, like I say, that's why I've made sort of comments about the sort of temporary rules, for example, because of the, in Japan, they've got temporary rules and they are designed for use in Japan. I'm going off on a tangent here, totally different, but this is Kendo Rant, so this is where I do that. And they've got temporary rules at the minute so that they can do Shiai despite the pandemic, right? A pandemic is obviously affecting everybody, right? And it's affecting everybody differently because of the seriousness of the situation, right? Now, the situation with Kendo in Japan is different to everywhere else, all right? Everywhere else, we've been able to put Kendo on hold because obviously, the seriousness of the pandemic has sort of overtaken the need to do Kendo, of course. But in Japan, it's not quite as simple as that because Kendo plays a much bigger role in society as a whole. It's a little bit like, and I know this has happened throughout the pandemic as well, obviously it has in my country anyway, but like they had to close schools in lots of places and put education on hold a little bit, but as soon as possible they had to get that back and get it working somehow despite the pandemic. Yeah, well, there's a similar situation with Kendo in Japan as well, because Kendo's part of education for a lot of people, it's part of people's career, so it's just not the same. All right, so I think it's working in a very different environment to our in a lot of places. So that's where I'm saying we need to take these sort of temporary rules out for application outside of Japan with a bit of a pinch of salt, because we're in such a different situation to what they are. We don't have to do Shiai, whereas some of the people there do have to do Shiai, because if they don't, it'll affect their job opportunities in the future. Yeah. So it's so different. So I do urge us to sort of keep that in mind. So with that tangent done, and a question that nobody asked, let's move on to the next one. Don't know where that came from. I think that's just been brewing in there somewhere. Anyway, hi Andy, what's the correct way to refer to Kendo practitioners? I've come across the terms Kendoka, Kenshi, and even Kendoists. What difference does it imply? Do you refer to competitors as players or fighters, and why? Thanks, and sorry if you've answered it before. PS, loving the rants and all your analysis videos. Thank you very much. Yeah, look, all three of those terms are absolutely fine. Kendoka Kenshi and Kendoist, right? Kendoist is obviously English, right? It's like an Anglicization. Is that a word? Like an Englishism? Is that a word? I don't know. But it's like taking a word and just making it into English, right? So Kendoist. I like that. I think it sounds dead good. it reminds me of I think they used that word in the National Geographic documentary, you know, the Kendo's Grueling Challenge 8th Dan 1, and that was like one of the first Kendo videos I watched when I was like first starting out. So yeah, I do like Kendoist when I'm talking in English. I think that's cool. Kendo practitioners is also perfectly fine, I guess, when you're talking in English. So yeah, I tend to use the term player rather than fighters because it just seems more appropriate, especially if we're talking about like in a Shiai. I tend to use the term player rather than fighters because I don't see Shiai as a fight, to be honest. I mean, it's combat, but I don't know. I don't think it matters though. You could say either. It's perfectly fine to say either. It's not like one's right and one's wrong. When it comes to Kendoka and Kenshi though, Kendoka means somebody that does Kendo. All right. Kenshi means a swordsperson or swordsman. Yeah. So someone that wields a sword. So you can be a Kenshi and you don't have to do Kendo to be Kenshi. You could like do Iai or Kenjutsu or something, or even like a European martial art, sword martial art. What do they call it? Hima or something. You know, you could still be called a Kenshi if you wield a sword. But Kendoka specifically means somebody that does Kendo. So that's technically more correct, I guess. But, you know, people say Kenshi all the time, referring to Kendo as well. Next one. Hi, Andy. I noticed the skidare of my men is touching my door's mune, preventing me from tilting my head down. This was the first time I wore my bogu in full, so I'm wondering if it's normal. Can the skidare be replaced with a shorter one? Or is it that I wear my door too high, which I doubt? Thanks. Okay, so it depends how tall you are. But there's a couple of things, right? If you're over 170 centimeters tall, right, then you're wearing the door too high. Which I know you doubt, but I don't doubt it as much if that's the case. Now, look, you said it's the first time you're wearing the bogu in full. This is totally normal. Getting the right height of the door takes a bit of practice. You definitely do not need a shorter skidare or ago on the men. You don't need that, right? You don't need that. You don't need to tilt your head down often in Kendo. So for some people, it's normal for the ago to touch the mune of the door. All right, especially for like shorter people, it's quite normal, and it's perfectly possible to do Kendo in that situation. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you're like over 170 centimeters tall, then you're probably wearing the door too high, or wearing the men wrong, or you just haven't got used to wearing it all properly together as a set. It takes a bit of time. It'll get there. It'll come right. But you don't need special bogu for it. All right. You don't need a shorter skidare. You don't need a shorter domine. You don't need any of that. You'll be fine. All right. And it'll just take a little bit of practice. Okay. So just bear with it. Next one. Can you touch on the subject of reiho and how it's just as important in our lives outside of the dojo and Kendo community? I can. What I would do is I'd recommend anybody to go and watch the video that I put out called Kendo in Our Daily Lives or something like that. Is that what I call it? Can't remember the title off the top of my head. But it's where I talk about how Kendo makes you a better person. I think it's called that. Does Kendo make you a better person? Something like that. It's like an hour long or something, I think. But it's like a video where I've gone into how Kendo affects your daily life. And part of the reason that we do learn and put so much importance on reiho, which is the etiquette of Kendo, is so that bleeds into our daily life. Kendo is about making our daily life better and preparing us for the difficulties that daily life provides us with, and handling them with composure and dignity. Because through Kendo, we exert ourselves into various let's say tribulations and difficult situations that are stressful and strenuous. I know that Kendo can be enjoyable at times, but at other times it's very difficult. It should be quite difficult and stressful and strenuous. And I certainly have experienced that, you know, when it's been very difficult, you can't do it how you want to. And it's very easy to sort of turn away and give up on it. But no, you must sort of keep on pushing through, and you must do all this You know, whether you suffer a defeat that you really didn't want to suffer, or you achieve victory over somebody else, or you experience a very difficult time from another person in Keiko, or you have a very sort of exhausting experience in practice or whatever. All of these things are tests that we're faced with, and like I say, we must face with sort of dignity and composure, right? And remembering Reiho is it's the sort of glue that holds all that together. Yeah, because it's very easy, especially in combative situations, to be overcome by emotion, just like in lots of other situations in life. But through Kendo, we encounter situations where we've been tested to our limit and still have to remain composed enough to present gratitude to our partner, without sort of without celebrating, and without resent towards them, and that's what Reiho is for, and that is what is kind of supposed to help you deal with difficult situations in everyday life, so that you're able to handle them with the same sort of dignity and composure, and really, Reiho, the etiquette, is really is the kind of thing that holds all that together. Imagine if we didn't have to do bows or sonkyo or any of that stuff, like in the matches, and you were able to just celebrate when you won. Like, it'd be a total different experience, wouldn't it? The kendo matches, for example. And I don't think they'd be as beneficial to the participants as they are right now. I think we'd see a very different situation. Okay, next one. Hello again, Andy. If you've already got too many questions for this week, Rant, feel free to skip this. No, you're in. After watching your Zekken Nafuda video, you said that you provide translation of names into Japanese. Yep. If someone sends you a non-Japanese name in kanji in place of katakana, do you bother attempting to correct them or provide feedback that this may be seen as improper? Example from Google. Ande iki, andei versus Andy. Okay, I'll be ordering a Zekken Nafuda using katakana very soon from Kendostar. Thank you very much. So, all right, yeah, this is a good question. I know there's lots of people out there that like to have kanji instead of katakana on their Zekken when they, don't have a name that's normally able to be written in katakana. And especially if you lived in Japan a bit, lots of Japanese people like to kind of present you with a what they call an ateji name, which is a name that's written in kanji. Kanji is these kind of characters. They're actually Chinese characters that they use in the Japanese language that are pictographic. Each symbol means something. So this one means safety, this one means to leave, and this one means to live, or it means raw as well. But unless I'm remembering that wrong, I'm not great at reading Japanese, as you'll soon find out. And then these are the katakana, which are letters that are used for foreign words or to provide emphasis. And these are phonetic characters. So this symbol doesn't mean anything. It just says a, okay, like our alphabet does. And this one says n, and this one says de, and this one says I. And because this one's little compared to this one, you see it's about a quarter of the size. That when they're together, that changes that from de to di. And this line makes it extended, so that says Andy. Okay, so that's how you write my name in Japanese. Though I usually skip the thing on the end and just go with Andy, but because it says Andy. Anyway, so yeah, in Japan, lots of people do like to kind of enjoy making up your name into kanji that fit the sound of your name, and they say, oh look, you can write your name in kanji, and I know that that's quite popular, and I've had senseis do it to me, and because the senseis have been important to me, I've used those kanji in very limited situations, but never really on an outward way. I don't recommend them for Zekken, as I've said before many times on that video you mentioned. And the reason for that is, right, you showed me some there. Now, I admit already, right, my Japanese reading ability is not great, okay? But I found it quite difficult to read what that said, all right? So if I saw somebody with that written on, I wouldn't know what their name was, all right? That it's very, very clear. Okay. Now, what you've got to realize is even in Japan with Japanese people, you can have two people that have the name that's written with the same kanji, but it's pronounced in different ways. It's read in different ways, because each kanji has at least two ways to read it as well. So it gets even more complicated. All right. So anyway, with all that said, yeah, look, if somebody orders on the website and puts the kanji in and says use these kanji, we'll make it as you instruct, all right? I've already put out enough stuff there, I think, to say that, you know, our opinion is it's better to write it in katakana if that's the appropriate way to write your name. But if you wanted, you know, it's not for us to tell you what to do. It's totally and utterly up to you guys, all right? So if you put that on the order form, that's how we're going to make it, okay? What we will do sometimes is if you put katakana on there, and this does happen occasionally, if you put katakana on there and it doesn't seem to match with how your name looks like it should be pronounced, we might touch base then and just say, hey, you know, is this definitely the katakana you want us to use? Because it doesn't, you know, it sounds different. Now, we don't always get that right either, because like I'm from the UK, as you can tell probably from my accent, and you know, like different names that are spelled even the same are pronounced differently in different languages. So there's that as well. Okay. So I get that too. But, you know, sometimes I know some people might just like put their name into Google Translate and God knows what comes up. So there's that to bear in mind. All right. But no, I wouldn't necessarily just like contact somebody and be like, well, I know you wrote the kanji in there, but that's not really suitable for you, sort of thing. That's up to you guys. All right. If you don't know how to write your name in Japanese, don't worry, you don't have to go and find it out for yourself. Just write it in there in your language. All right? English is the best for us, though, because that's what we understand. Yeah? Just write it in there in English and we'll translate it into katakana for you. Okay? Good. Okay, last one. Hi, Andy. Do you think Indigo Musashi pattern gi for adults will be a thing? I really like him. No, I don't think it'll be a thing. There's nothing to stop you wearing one, though, if you really like him. And if you want one, I can get one for you. I think they're still available in adult sizes, the indigo ones. The white ones are. I'm not sure if the indigo ones are or not. I'd have to have a look, but I think we can still get them. So if you want one, hit me up with an email. But if I think they're going to be a thing or popular, then no. I think the answer is no. There we go. We got to the end. I know it was a bit of a rambly, ranty one today, but hey, that's what you get. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all next time. Shop at Kendostar. Bye-bye.